What is going on, everybody? It's your guy Alec Elijah from Let's Talk Draft, and of course it's NFL draft season, so I gotta come back with some mock drafts. Gotta give you guys some videos to look out for, some players to look out for, of course. Be sure to follow me on Twitter. I'm gonna go ahead and plug that right here. Make sure you follow your boy for all my NFL draft and college football content. Any players that you want me to take a look at, feel free to DM me. But as the video states, we're only going to be doing a mock draft for the guys that are, or the teams that are picking with even numbers this first round in the 2024 NFL Draft. I will have a separate video for the teams that are doing the odds, and so on and so forth. I'll have a couple videos coming out within the next couple days, so be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to hit that. When the video is over, though, leave 4 words in the comments. It helps me boost the algorithm, so I've been told. So go ahead and leave 4 words in the comments for me. I really appreciate that. Let me know what you guys think, if you guys agree, disagree. But yeah, alright guys, so just like the video says, I'm only going to be doing the even numbered teams for this year's NFL Draft. Just for this video, I'm going to be doing a separate video for the odd numbers, so be on the lookout for that. Should be coming out in the next couple of days as well. But without further ado, I do have the even numbered teams highlighted. The only teams that you probably won't hear about in these next 2 videos are going to be the Texans and Browns, just because they don't have a first round pick. That's on them. Oh, and the Panthers as well, sorry. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get on into the draft. I'm not going to be making any trades, like I said, just because I don't want to disrupt anything. I just want to do even teams straight away and see what you guys think. So let's go ahead and get this started. Pretty much a no-brainer for the Bears. Obviously, Caleb Williams is the consensus #1 pick. This #2 pick, though, I think is the pick that a lot of teams are going to be looking at. You can really go any which way here. Commanders did sign Mariota as a veteran. Maybe he will start the first 4 weeks, but I don't see this being a long time stint for Mariota. Drake May has been one of the more obvious selections here. A lot of scouts have really had him #2 on their board. I've seen Mel Kiper do it. I had it on another mock draft that I did separately. But I've also done this. I've done Jayden Daniels going second. A lot of people might wonder why. Cliff Kingsbury, as the offensive coordinator, I think will thrive with a dual threat option like Jayden Daniels. And that's no discredit to Drake May, who very well could be a Patriot. That's no discredit to him, but Jayden Daniels has a lot of momentum right now. He's also the only FBS player to throw for 12,000 yards and rush for 3,000 in a career, and he led the SEC in 11 yards per pass attempt and 8.4 yards per rush. Those type of numbers in the SEC, along where you get, or as well as when you get the 2023 SEC Offensive Player of the Year, I think that's eye-opening, especially to a guy like Cliff Kingsbury. He does love to push the ball downfield, so realistically you can really go with Drake May or Jayden Daniels. Drake May maybe having a bit stronger arm than Jayden Daniels, but Jayden Daniels has a lot more, no, I shouldn't say a lot more, but has a significant more amount of athleticism compared to Drake May. So I think, with that pick, I think the best selection would be Jayden Daniels at 2 for the Commanders. Going into the #4 pick, this is a team, I said I'm not going to be making any trades, but I think this is the team that we're going to see make the first trade. It could be the Cardinals. They might trade down. Even if they don't, though, I think looking at your depth chart, you guys have second-year Michael Wilson, who looked a little promising. He did have 565 yards last season on 35 catches. You have Greg Dortch going into his 4th season, probably the last year on his rookie contract, and you have a 7-year veteran in Chris Moore, who, he's had 1 season over 500 yards his entire career. So it's very clear, what the Cardinals need to target here. It's also their #1 need. And who better than MHJ, Marvin Harrison Jr., quite possibly one of the best wide receiver prospects that we've seen in recent years. And I think he's the consensus pick here. I don't think there's really going to be a discrepancy. If the Cardinals decide to take MHJ there, he's one of those guys that can help turn around your franchise, and Kyler is in dire need of a weapon. Going over to the Giants. Giants have really 3 options, in my opinion. And here they are. 1, Do you want to find a new face of the franchise? Do you want to scrap the Daniel Jones era and let's get somebody new in there? Let's get somebody fresh. Let's get somebody like Michael Penix in there. Do we fix the immediate problem at hand, being number 2? And that's obviously the offensive line. It stinks. It's stunk for a couple seasons now. One of the big reasons that, Saquon really had no problem walking away and going over to a team like Philadelphia. Or do we get Daniel Jones a weapon? Do we want to see what Daniel Jones has to offer for another season? We've seen small glimpses of potential from Daniel Jones, so it's not, crazy. But I think they need to take care of the offensive line. I think it's a huge, huge problem for them. Joe Alt being here on the board, he's been tackle 1 for a lot of people. My favorite tackle, though, is Talise Fuaga, and he is very well making a good case for himself by being tackle 1. He's very, very athletic. And even if you wanted to go wide receiver here, O'Dunes is obviously popping out on the board. He's the guy that can make a play for you. But I'm not going to lie, I think for this draft, like I said, I would give Daniel Jones one more season. We've seen glimpses. Obviously, wide receiver room isn't too appealing. You just lost Darren Waller, who you paid tons of money to. Dang, even with that being said, I'm going to take Rome Odunze. I was going to take a tackle. But I'm not. I'm going to take Rome Odunze. Falcons on the board. And this is the team that I think probably takes the first defensive player. Defensive line, John Newton stands out. But I really, really think with the new coach, Raheem Morris, blueprint has already been laid out. Stack the trenches, secure the trenches, beef up the D-line, and your team can be a lot more successful. Weapons are already there offensively. Maybe in play for a quarterback. They could also be a team that trades down. But I think Latu would be a great pick right here. I know a lot of people are saying Dallas Turner could be... Oh, I'm sorry. Dallas Turner went prior. So Dallas Turner is defensive end 1 for, obviously, PFF right now. But I was going to go Latu anyway. He's my edge 1. He's extremely athletic. And he lit up the combine and pro day. And he had insane athleticism to showcase for almost all the coaches there. I think he's the edge 1 in this class. I know a lot of people are in love with Dallas Turner just because of the prospect that he is. There was a point in time where probably pre-combine, Dallas Turner, maybe even for some people now, he's still the best defensive player available in this draft. But I think, with the momentum that Latu has, I think he goes to the Falcons. Right there. Going into the Jets, this is very easy for me, to be honest. I honestly think if you are serious about making, any type of run, whether it be the playoffs or, Super Bowl run, especially having Aaron Rodgers with all the injuries that he's sustained. I mean, obviously just the leg injury, but all the other injuries that have gone on with the running backs with the New York Jets. It's very clear you need to fix the offensive line. So go ahead and take whatever the best tackle is available. Talise Fuaga being my tackle 1 for the Jets at 10, I think is a steal. And if they're really serious about, the Aaron Rodgers project, and I call it a project, yes, simply because it's not working just yet. But if they are serious about it, you got to keep him protected. Coming off that nasty leg injury, I think is going to be a little interesting to see. He was trying to rush it and come back. But this season should be interesting. I think they are going to go ahead and stack the offensive line, especially to keep him protected so they can go ahead and run the dice. Moving over to the Broncos. Broncos are a team that are in play for a quarterback. I don't think Stidham is the QB for week 1. Although stranger things, have happened. I just don't think Stidham has it to be your starting quarterback. With J.J. McCarthy off the board, it gets very interesting. I think the Broncos are a team that does try to trade up for a guy like J.J. McCarthy once the first 3 quarterbacks are off the board. But the Vikings are also a team. Obviously, in this one, we're not making trades. So J.J. McCarthy was able to fall right into the Vikings' lap. But with Penix still here, I think Penix is a better prospect than Bo Nix. I think Penix is a better leader than Bo Nix. Sean Payton, obviously a history with great leaders and QBs. And I'm going to go with Michael Penix Jr. I think he's going to be extremely talented. Mile high, you get a lot of altitude. He's a guy that can air the ball out. One of those guys that you really can't pass up on. Saints are another team, just like the Jets. I think they need to be looking at the offensive line. You need to keep Kamara healthy. You need to make sure that he's on the field as much as you can get him. And they really got a gimme here. Olu Fashanu, who I think is probably maybe tackle 3. Available at 14. I think that's a gift right there. So Saints should thank you for that one. Fashanu was the 3rd best tackle too in terms of production at the combine, and was definitely the best Big Ten tackle to come into this draft. The only other guy that I really would have went to the Colts right after, who was J.C. Latham. Latham gives you a lot of versatility, gets you snaps and reps at guard and tackle. So I know teams are going to like that from him. So I mean, you could have went either or, but because Olu was available on the board, we had to go with Fashanu. No brainer. Moving over to the Seahawks, I mean, I would have loved for Latu or Turner to fall here. Jared Verse is even off the board, so it's a little spooky. And I think right here, obviously you don't have a necessity for tackle. Do you want to take a linebacker this early? Do you want to take a safety? I mean, you could even be in play for Brock Bowers. And that's actually crazy that Brock Bowers has fell this far down the board. I mean, I have Brock Bowers going in this range right here, but being available, I mean, you can't pass up on a generational prospect like Brock Bowers. I don't think I could even sit here and pass up on him. I would love for him to fall to the Bengals, but I don't think, Seahawks can pass up on him. I'm going to have to go Brock Bowers at 16 to the Seahawks. And that's a huge blow to the Bengals, Bengals are probably the one team that are seriously in play for a guy like Brock Bowers. I do see them trading up potentially for him. But with him being off the board, I think Bengals are going to be the first team that takes a defensive lineman. And Johnny Newton still being there. Oh, Byron Murphy went right before. That's twice that I've done that. That's hilarious. But Johnny Newton still being on the board, I think he's actually a better prospect than Byron Murphy, and he had a way better combine than Byron Murphy. And him still being there might be a no-brainer, seriously. I mean, do you take a cornerback? Do you take Quinyon Mitchell? The fact that he's fell this low, I mean, nah, I think you take Johnny Newton at that point. And then we get into the Steelers. I think Steelers are another team, just like Jets, in play for a lineman. But in their case, they have the benefit of taking a center right now. Center and a guy that can play reps at guard. Jackson Powers Johnson out of Oregon, the best center prospect in this year's draft. I think the Steelers need to do a big thing of keeping Najee Harris on the field. They just got a 1-2 punch too with Jalen Ward. Having an impressive season last year. So, I mean, they can ride tackle here. They can take Fatanu. They can take Mims if they really wanted to. But I think Jackson Powers Johnson is the better prospect just because he does give you the versatility at center and guard, which the Steelers could really need. Now, Eagles, this is a no-brainer for me. They are in play for a cornerback. That was probably their biggest struggle, and it was evident, obviously, in the playoffs last season. And with Kool-Aid still here, Nate Wiggins still here, Cooper DeJean still here. A lot of people are going to say, why is Cooper DeJean even still here? I think Cooper DeJean is going to be a great safety, just not for the teams up here. I don't think he's really scheme fit for some of these teams. Obviously, that's a very interesting thing to say considering he can play cornerback, nickel, and safety. But I think he'll thrive more at safety. Some of these teams are just in plays for corners right now. Obviously, the safety market, too, took a little bit of a dip. But I think right here we go Kool-Aid McKinstry. A lot of people, Nate Wiggins, have a lot more hype just because of the 40 time that he ran. He's a great prospect. I'm a little bit more higher on both of the prospects from Alabama, Terrion Arnold and Kool-Aid. Would be nice to see them go back to back right here. And we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Cowboys on the clock, and they have pretty much a whole bunch of needs here. I think on my notes I said that too, but realistically, they haven't talked long term with CeeDee Lamb. Looking at the roster, there's not too many, players that look appealing as a wide receiver too. Brandon Cooks really isn't getting any younger either. So I think you're in play for a wide receiver here, especially with Adonai Mitchell here, and especially with Brian Thomas here. Now, Adonai Mitchell's getting a little bit of a short end of a stick right now with the media and, some of his former coaches or scouts or whatever talking about his problems with his diabetes and his attitude and stuff like that, which I think is pretty blasphemous. I think he might stay in Texas. There's a very good chance. Wide receiver is obviously a need here. And why not? Why not? Let's keep him in Texas. Could be a play. I mean, Brian Thomas, hell of a prospect. Shocked that he's even this low. I'm saying that as if I'm not doing the draft. But there's going to be some teams that are real happy if Brian Thomas does fall this low. Bucks on the clock, and I would have hoped that one of the top two defensive linemen were available just to be in play right here. Just because Vita Vea isn't getting any younger, no disrespect, but I mean, Greg Gaines wasn't worth the $3 million that you spent, and the fact that there's not a defensive lineman really grinds my gears. Again, I'm saying that as if I'm not doing the draft. But, I mean, you could really go with a lineman here. And it wouldn't be a bad selection. Need for guard and center. Zach Frazier's popping off the board. But why not? Why don't we get the first linebacker out of the way? Peyton Wilson could see himself in the first round. He's a hell of a leader, hell of a player. I mean, if we just look at himself, he's 6'4", 238. I think he's one of those guys that could see himself. And for this pick, just kind of ignore it. I mean, I was going to go lineman anyway here. Like I said, I do see the Cardinals in play for trades and stuff like that. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and grab a lineman. Zach Frazier being probably the best available center on the board. Cardinals do need a center as well. They could be in play for Jackson Powers-Johnson too, if they do make trades for all I know. But Zach Frazier being available, and this is where things get really spooky. And I mean super spooky. If we give Joshua Allen a guy like Brian Thomas Jr., he might be one of the best rookie wide receivers next season. Because that wide receiver room right now is screaming, fix me, with Diggs exiting. Allen's going to need a big-time weapon. There's not a lot of big-time weapons still on that depth chart. Now, there's a lot of guys that can play wide receiver 2 and 3. Just not one. And Brian Thomas Jr. going to Josh Allen would be absolutely insane. Realistically, the only other play for Buffalo would probably be to grab a tackle. But, with a talented guy like Brian Thomas Jr., you got to make that play. For sure. And this is a no-brainer for me, for the Ravens at least. I think you need to go ahead and protect the franchise, which is Lamar Jackson. And you just signed Derrick Henry. Let's go ahead and get somebody damn near bigger than Derrick Henry. 6'7", 340. Marius Mims. He is an absolute unit. And the Ravens are really one of those teams that are just one or two pieces away from making that type of push. We've seen it in the playoffs. Obviously, playing a guy like Patrick Mahomes can get very frustrating for teams, but Ravens can make that push very soon. We'll have to see. Chiefs on the clock, and they're another team. Like I said, they can get real spooky. They do need another wide receiver. They don't have a guy that I think is a clear wide receiver 2. Rashee Rice is looking like wide receiver 1 right now. Obviously, everything going on with him, I don't want to get into detail with, but everybody's pretty aware. Everything going on with him is pretty unclear right now. Travis Kelce isn't getting any younger either. And I think you have to make a play for a weapon here. Do you go Ladd McConkey? I'm going to go Troy Franklin just because I think he was the second best wide receiver out of the Pac-12 in their final season. Would have been the best wide receiver if Rome Odunze was not there. But I think I'm going to go Troy Franklin. He's just a hell of a prospect. He's 6'3", 6'4". Let me see, just to clarify. He's 6'3", big body guy, and he can make a big play. And he can be another one of those guys. Like I said last season with Rashee Rice, having a guy like Patrick Mahomes will only benefit your career, and I think Troy Franklin can pop off as a rookie the same way Rashee Rice did. And having that 1-2 punch of Rashee Rice and Troy Franklin, that could be a recipe for the Chiefs. But that's pretty much going to sum up this first mock draft. Let me know what you guys think. Here's pretty much what it looks like. Let me know in the comments below. Leave at least 4 words in the comments. Leave a like. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Like I said, we do have the video of the evens coming out very soon. So please be sure, or the odds I should say. This is the evens. I'm hilarious. But we have a video of the odd numbers coming out very soon. Be sure to be on the lookout for that. With that being said, peace.